Hello everyone, a little teaching lesson here. This week I'm going to cover various topics to warm you up for the main talk on Saturday, so you can come into it with a little bit more awareness and knowledge about things, so we can have some really good engagement. I encourage as many people to come to that talk on Saturday as possible. It's a fantastic opportunity to come together and for me to then update you on our current awareness and information in application of things and how this is going to play out this year. What I want to talk about today, one of the main topics of the talk, is going to be about beliefs, belief systems, information, environment and behaviour. Complex things. So the purpose of this talk is to increase our awareness, to share information, and then to apply it throughout our life. I mean, this is essentially what NEP is. Everyone who wants to get better in running goes down two paths. We have the path of reaching our absolute potential, which is about really a growth journey. You could determine this as a growth journey. It's always evolving and the possibilities are endless. It's infinite awareness. And then there's the path of getting a little bit better. Maybe trying to find ways to get better without doing much more. Maybe it involves some shortcuts. And it's kind of getting into like a fixed mindset of kind of the artificial intelligence route, the fixed ideology route. You never really evolve past a certain belief system. So you could describe this as being fixed. And it tends to hit a brick wall a lot sooner than this path. Sometimes you can reach a certain level of success sooner, following the getting a bit better path. But ultimately, as long as you're on this path of growth, you will get to where you want to be eventually, however hard that may be or however long that may be. And what I want to talk about is how our environment shapes this behaviour and path, which fundamentally, environment is everything. Our potential is dictated by our environment. So, what I mean by that, environment is everything in our life, I guess. And since the last 10 years, our environment has changed quite a lot. For people generally living in the UK or around the world, everywhere's a little bit different, but we've had things like the rise of social media, we've had an increase in population, we've had kind of changes in working from home, so social conditioning has changed. Running's changed massively. We've got more runners than ever. We've got more races than ever. The type of races people are doing have changed. The type of runners have changed. Not everyone is competitive. Some people do it for health. There's a lot more information online about every topic going. There's all these kind of fixed ideologies on we do double threshold, we do long single runs, we don't do S&C, we do loads of S&C, all this stuff. You have these kind of compartments. That's essentially what social media's brought out, in everyone competing for their own little compartment of that. But environment, we could put in social conditioning. So that is essentially who we're around. We're talking family, we're talking friends, we're talking colleagues, we're talking the other runners around us. Everyone in our life. And that circle is absolutely fundamental to the journey that you want to go on. We have the information that we consume. Now, this could be across various things. It could be what you read, it could be what you see online, it could be the videos you watch, it could be the people you meet, the information scale since 2016 really is a lot bigger. Since 2006, it's a hell of a lot bigger. And since 1996, it's probably a completely different level, almost unrecognizable. We have experience, so that's kind of in-person experience. You can attach wisdom to that. So wisdom from learning from experience. We could have, kind of the running club you're at, where you work, how you work, what environment is that. You understand it. Environment is everything. into education. Our environment then shapes the next thing, which is going to be our kind of behaviour, I guess, or more our belief and ideas first. So it's going to change our environment. It takes our beliefs, if I can spell it right, ideas. You could say ideology, but I don't like those things. Essentially, our thoughts, you know, how we see the world. You could call it perception, I guess. And then this is going to dictate our habits. Could be good habits, bad habits, daily habits, lifelong habits, and who we do it with, you know. And then our habits is then going to dictate our potential. So ultimately, our environment shapes our potential. It shapes our potential because this feeds in almost like a funnel to our perception of reality, our belief systems, our ideas, our thoughts. With these thoughts, we then go about our day, our week, with certain habits and activities. You could say activities as well as habits, because the habits might not be ingrained, it might be fluid, because there might be a lack of consistency. You can be consistently bad at something as well as being consistently good at something. So this information dictates all the activities that we do, and all the activities that we do determine how good we're going to get at a given sport. This for us is running. So that dictates our potential and where we're going to end up. And it's fascinating that a lot of people don't really look back on this and realise all these things that's dictating the end result. When you've been coaching for as long as I have, you can see it a mile off. And you can see it when you take the person out of a certain environment and you put them in a different environment and you change the result. Without really being that scientific on the plan, you know, or anything, I would say you could try your best with, you know, making the perfect plan, but if the environment does not suit the goals that the athlete wants, you will never reach your potential. So ultimately, you cannot outrun a bad environment. Everything starts with environment. It is a priority for all of us to get this environment right. And I will talk a lot about how to create that environment on Saturday in the talk. But just talking about how our ideas change and how these belief systems can change. And I'm going to talk about the brain a little bit and how activities, maybe certain activities and how we live, can change our thought processes. So you can almost split this in half. In terms of how we develop new thoughts and ideas, we could call it brain plasticity. So essentially how we develop new neural pathways, how we kind of embed our learnings in our brain, and we store it in there as kind of memory, and how we kind of connect the dots with things. It could be called brain plasticity. So if we want to increase those neural networks, we're going to talk about stuff on this side. If we want to decrease those neural networks, we could talk about stuff on this side. So you could almost talk about growth mindset, fixed mindset, and what that environment would look like if you wanted to create someone with a fixed mindset that repeats a repetitive, almost stable bad habit. In what environment would it look like for someone that is going on a growth journey to reach their potential, to then escape some of those bad habits or learn from those bad things and then keep moving forward? So let's talk about the bad things, I guess. Let's talk about good things first, actually, because then it's better to reverse it. So if you want to increase your awareness, consciousness, all possibilities, we want to have good social interaction. This is one of the biggest findings. social interaction with other people who have these positive habits, good information and positive habits, which is going to help you to reach your potential because you're going to model them. Yeah, we've all heard of the phrase of you are the version of the 5 closest people around us. It's kind of the same thing. So having good quality social interaction and regular social interaction is really, really good for us. And it's why people who don't have social interaction get all sorts of mental health issues, depression, anxiety, and all sorts of things, which society now is actually, we're connected on social media, but we're actually very disconnected in real life in a lot of cases. So it is a problem. It is a problem, and especially for young people. So another thing would be health-wise. So getting adequate sleep, good nutrition, and I guess optimal training, not overtraining and doing more than very little. But also, a big find is traveling to new places. So when we travel, traveling's really good for you. You get all these new experiences. You get to meet new people. You get to visit new places. That brings with it a new sense of life, doesn't it? And if we don't travel, we almost get fixed in this constant same routine of repeating the same thing over and over again. Now, if you are in a really good environment, I guess, and you have everything you need, then not travelling could in some ways help reinforce those habits. But living in the northeast, for most people who is listening to this, it is not a superpower of an environment for distance running or middle distance running. So it is by far one of the worst environments you could actually be in. You must travel. And the other thing is testing our brain. So cognitive kind of challenge, I guess. So doing new things, doing things that test us mentally. That's going to help us as well to develop these new things. Or basically, you could call that learning, couldn't you? You could call it learning. And if we wanted to keep in this fixed mindset and avoid growth, we would want to limit social interaction. We would want to have a lack of sleep, which probably leads to chronic stress. So stress is great for keeping you in a fixed state. We could also label these high vibration, low vibration, high energy, low energy. Yeah. Limit social, lack of sleep, stress, poor diet, undertrained or overtrained, basically bad training, which probably comes from the bad diet and the lack of sleep. These all interconnect. We repeat, so basically cognitive stagnation. So we repeat similar processes over and over again, and we never challenge that. We never step outside of that. It's kind of like fixed box mentality. So cognitive stagnation, doing the same thing over and over again, and then not traveling. And there are many studies, especially on travel and social interaction, that link to looking at the brain in terms of how it develops new experiences and new thoughts. So you can understand that having an environment of this creates a very, very different person to an environment of this. And it's why the training plan is only one very, very small aspect of running coaching, because it is not the nuts and bolts of it. This is the nuts and bolts of it. And you know, we have to be on this journey on the left side if we want to get further towards our potential. It is impossible to get there if we have the traits of the other side and some of the other things I've talked about on the last board. So some food for thought there, very much so, and we'll get into it on Saturday. And it's why my job, although it's very hard to do just as one person, and especially when I'm injured, to get people in this environment when we have problems in the northeast with travel. The roads are so damn busy on a night, especially after work. Because of the northeast, a lot of people have to travel outside to work because the jobs aren't there. There's a whole host of factors as well, isn't there? To why we can't get in this environment. So my job is to try and find other people who can also support this club, and we can link up with other clubs. We can link up with other sports, other professionals in other things to try to help us to navigate through this process. And we're in very interesting times. But yeah, let's increase our awareness about it first if we to fight it. So have a think, make some notes, and come on Saturday prepared on this section. And tomorrow I shall talk about something else. But yeah, I shall leave it for there, guys. Catch you next time.